It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. Ha, it's Feedback Friday, and Scout's with me this Feedback Friday. Right, Scout? Yeah. So, it's a good day. It's a catter day on a Friday. So, no surprise, talked about J.K. Rowling this week, and all the nastiness was around that. Well, I mentioned Hillary Clinton, and somebody got freaking nasty about that. But I want to address this nastiness, not for the people that did the nastiness, but for the people that are like, what is the deal? Because the conversations surrounding this have been interesting to me, but I find that the people who aren't completely losing it are sort of in the same boat of, this isn't really a big deal to me. Can everybody please calm down? Which is probably the same perspective to have over a video game, right? For or against, it's a video game. And that is not saying that J.K. Rowling's comments are video game, but give me a moment. Let me do the help support this channel, and then we'll get into it. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/Leanna K, so I can make money no matter how much a very vocal niche yells at me. Or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for somebody who can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/Leanna K. There are a lot of people that seek services precisely because of the noise, and they are overwhelmed. So, okay. I'm not going to read any of the nasty J.K. Rowling supporter comments because they involved insults and a lot of the times ad hominems. And this, to me, is the whole problem with the J.K. Rowling phenomenon. More than her actual views, it's the tactics, right? And I say this as someone who has to frequently remind myself that most people are not where I am regarding understanding and being comfortable around trans people. I try in these situations because of my experiences advocating for marriage equality in the 1990s. It just feels like deja vu on so many levels. And I try to remind myself that, ow, Scout just stabbed me. We're going to do your nails, Scout, while we talk. I try to remind myself that part of the fact that I'm further along on trans issues is because I've had access to conversations and information, and that doesn't make me morally superior. It makes me somewhat privileged. And sorry about the lighting. I'm privileged with sunlight in the middle of a Canadian winter, so I'm getting kind of blown out here. But this is interesting content, eh? Trimming a cat's nails while talking about social issues. But good boy. Mwah. But so I try not to set myself at, oh, I'm a good person and you're not. It's I've had access to information. I've had access to tools. I've had things that other people don't. So people not being as enlightened or as informed as I am, that's understandable. It's people being openly hostile and being demeaning and name calling and calling people crazy, stupid, whatever for having views. That's where I draw the line. And I draw that line precisely because I don't allow myself to do that to other people. And so I set a boundary, and I won't let people do that to me or other commenters. And one of the things I noted is that a lot of people in the comments on the Three Women Talking video took the absolute opposite message to what was actually said. I can't do anything about that. And the fact that people had such a knee jerk to part one and assumed all the things, and I don't remember what was said in the different parts, but I know that a lot of people stated views that we actually refute in one part of the discussion or another. So as this goes on, people are going to seem very silly in how they jump the gun. But this will be a learning experience for people. And part of why I was so grateful that Akila, sorry, I know somebody else named Akia, double L instead of single L. Why Akila, I was so grateful that she came on because she knew she was going to take shit. She knew people were going to be knee jerk just because of the presence of a trans woman. And that was part of why I'm very, very careful about who I bring on for these sorts of discussions, because this whole thing about inclusion is tricky, right? Because you can't have someone come on and speak for the whole of the identity group. They can just, any person can only give their views. And no, even though the trans community is small comparatively, it's like the Jewish community is small comparatively regarding religions, there are different opinions within these groups. And one person cannot represent everyone. And it seemed what happened in some of these comments is people took me saying, okay, here's the other side. I don't agree. I was like, you agree. Which there's nothing me or Song or Akila can do about that. If someone is determined to just get it wrong, have at it. Right? But then some other people said some interesting stuff, and I don't want to blow this all out dealing with people who couldn't behave. One person gave J.K. Rowling a lot of credit, claiming that J.K. Rowling was trying to make Snape and Lily like Catherine and Heathcliff in Wuthering Heights. And I give this person credit for attempting to give her benefit of the doubt. It was interesting. I can see the comparison. Cool. There was another really interesting comment that dealt with death of the author. There were a few comments dealing with death of the author, and I thought that's cool because death of the author is a concept that I personally still struggle with. I was forced to use it in university. I hated it. Because I think that, yes, I understand, keep the author out of the meaning making process. Now, the thing is, I do agree with some elements. Like, for instance, it is not, I don't think it's more morally right to consume a piece of media written by an author who's a piece of garbage who is dead versus consuming a piece of media by an author who is a piece of garbage who is alive. In part because that author who is still alive still has the opportunity to pull an H.P. Lovecraft and reverse their views. They're still alive. There's still hope, right? Roald Dahl was an anti-Semite until the day he frickin' died, whereas other authors like Charles Dickens, we have Dickens's letters, we see how he evolved. And again, to reiterate, this is a personal choice. And I think, it's a personal choice what media you consume. I consume a lot of media because I have to. And I realize that a lot of the great works of literature that we're forced to consume in school were written by complete pieces of crap. Hemingway, piece of crap. F. Scott Fitzgerald, very likely piece of crap. Lord Byron, epic piece of shit, okay? Piece of shit human. There are others like Lewis Carroll, like Dickens, like Conan Doyle, who there are some groups of people that want to make them worse than they were because they lump them in with the whole dead white men thing. And I don't think two wrongs make a right there. And because so many women throughout the years are held to this higher moral standard, it makes it harder for women to get published, and it makes it harder for women to sell books when we are published. I don't think two wrongs make a right. I think we can be able to say this is a great work of literature by a shitty human being. We can benefit from accepting the complexities of people. Now, again, I don't know why people got so damn mad at me because I said off the top, I am not going to buy Hogwarts Legacy because I can't separate it. I've had personal bad experiences with J.K. Rowling. But there's no moral issue I have with other people playing the game. I said that right off the top, and I don't understand, other than just absolute bad faith, why people interpreted my comments and Akila's comments and Song's comments through any lens but that. But it was straw man and factually inaccurate, and you're saying goblins are anti-Semite. I don't know if it's in this version, but there's one part in this topic where I say the whole monster race actually bothers me less than, when, George R. R. Martin cites history and makes the bankers in a, Spanish or North African climate, the entire banking system there was set up by Jews. He's actually saying it's history. But someone claimed that I was anti-Semitic because, anyway, insisting a Jewish person is anti-Semitic because you think they have a problem with something is the oldest reverse psychology trick in the fucking book. I'm pointing it out so I can encourage people to just not do that. Because I don't actually have a problem with this particular one. I was citing the fact that other people do. But let's get to the one person pointed out the quote Akila said, "You can't communicate your way out of a situation you behaved yourself into," and they compared that to the Wizards of the Coast open gaming license situation. And trust me, we're in agreement on that one, on the Two Women Talking team. We do think that Wizards really stepped in it. We've talked about this behind the scene. And this pivots to the Manly Monday video. That basically, I will thank you for the compliment. One commenter regarding Three Women Talking saying Leanna does a good job asking people questions and circling topics back around to the main point. Thank you. That was something I pride myself in, so it was nice somebody noticed. This was a Manly Monday comment, but it could apply to the Two Women, Three Women Talking thing equally. All of humanity equally kicks ass, sucks, but tribalism inevitably leads to my team can do no wrong, therefore neither can I. And I think that's an exaggeration that sort of underlines a very valid point, right? There are groups of people who are worse than others. People who are trying to take away rights from somebody are obviously less good than people who are advocating for more rights for people, right? White nationalists obviously not on the same moral paradigm as black civil rights people, right? Like, white nationalism is a racist movement. There may be some racism in other civil rights groups, but it is a bug, not a feature of the overall concept, right? Difference. But I do think the overall point that there are bad actors, there are bad people in every subcategory of human. And that's why I made the Manly Monday video for this week because, yeah, some women suck. And the challenge, and this ties into the J.K. Rowling thing, right? The challenge is to create a structure where we can recognize and communicate our issues with the individual that do not have to do with our expectations based on stereotypes. You know, we have stereotypes of men, we have stereotypes of women, we have stereotypes of people that don't neatly fit into either category, and everybody is punished in some way for not conforming to those stereotypes. And we can say that J.K. Rowling has had a rougher go of it, and there's been more backlash than someone like Graham Linehan or Ricky Gervais. We can throw Dave Chappelle in there, and he's had a really rough go. And what do Ricky Gervais and Graham Linehan have in common that Dave Chappelle and J.K. Rowling don't? They're both white men, right? Now, that's not all there is to it, right? There are other factors, and these things are not simple. So does it all come down to the fact that J.K. Rowling's a woman and Dave Chappelle is black? No. Do some people treat them more harshly because of that? Yeah. And you can't say, Glinner's a jerk. Ricky Gervais is a jerk, but that's his brand, right? That's the thing. If you say Ricky Gervais is a jerk, everybody knew that, right? Does that give him license to be transphobic? No. Well, being an asshole is his brand, so when he's an asshole, he doesn't violate his brand. J.K. Rowling had this stunning and brave reputation, ironically, as this children's author who made good, and now she's spending an inordinate amount of time going after trans people. Instead of really, she's not actively advocating for the dignity of women. It's not women's rights is good. She is actively campaigning against a more practical process for, gender recognition certificate changes. In part to make it less unnecessarily expensive for the state. She's doing that under the guise of it being about protecting women. Those things are different. Those things are different. If she was doing more on, here's how we can reduce sexual assault, here's how we can reduce assaults against women, proactive women's rights messaging, I would have a somewhat different opinion about her motivations, but she doesn't do that. It's just all this anti-trans stuff under the guise of protect the women's. That's not the same. It's just not the same. And it's fair to comment on that. And she is just way more consistent about it than any of the guys I mentioned. That's true. So it's difficult to separate, right? And that's the thing. These things are hard. And I do think we need more nuance with this stuff, saying, yes, gender might be a factor in the way people react to her. She's still wrong and is behaving like a crappy person. Both can be true. Same way, Dave Chappelle, is the fact that he's black probably mean people were harsher to him? Sure. He still doesn't seem to understand why people were upset by what he said, and he's being reactive. And he's not handling it well as I'd like him to. And I say this, I think, I don't find when he goes on to the trans stuff, I don't find him funny anymore. And I normally find Dave Chappelle an utterly brilliant comic. Sketch is hard. Sketch comedy's hard. Stand-up's hard. And he's good at both. We can have these nuance. We don't have to write a person completely off as a human to disagree or object or find bigoted certain aspects of their behavior. And again, this is why women can be shitty humans. J.K. Rowling is being a shitty human when she goes after somebody with a few hundred or a few thousand Twitter followers to directly call them out and be snarky and personal and nasty. Even when she's going after somebody like India Willoughby, who has, her own media platform, it's petty. And we can talk about petty behavior without even bringing up what she claims to stand for, right? It's just tactics matter. Behavior matters. And we can separate art from artists, yes, but we can separate opinions from tactics. Because tactics are what allow us to determine whether somebody is coming at something in absolutely good faith and is just misguided. And then what J.K. Rowling's doing, where she knows better. She's doing this deliberately. She might be drunk, I don't know, but that doesn't excuse pettiness. People are judged by pettiness. And I say this as somebody who takes cracks at people on Twitter, but I always make sure there's sort of this isn't the only person who does this, so if you see yourself in this behavior, hey, don't do that, as opposed to just being mean and a bully and being venal and petty. And I'm not perfect. I misjudge things sometimes. It's social media. We all fuck up sometimes. But there's a person who usually gets it right and fucks up versus a person who that is a core characteristic of their social media activity, right? It is always better to spend more time dealing with what you're for than what you're against. And I try to do that by introducing you guys to new people, by being positive on certain topics, by championing things I believe in, by recommending games I think are legitimately good. And I balance that by saying when there's something I legitimately don't like, so you guys can trust when I advocate for something, when I like something. It's not just me trying to be positive about everything. And with this whole Hogwarts Legacy thing, to me, the whole kerfuffle is in part, yes, trans stuff is very heated right now. But it's also a continuing lack of understanding at how game dev works, how the financial models of game devs work, what the realities are for game developers. And that is partially the industry's fault. And that is something I have been trying so hard to improve. But game devs are so afraid of their PR departments that you can only get people who aren't working for somebody currently to go on the record. Which sucks, because the thing I hear from game developers all the time when I say, what's one thing you want people to know better? And they said how the industry actually works, what it actually takes to make a game. So I know the need is there. And I know the interest is there. The problem is they come and they tell people what it is and people go, no, that's not true because this YouTuber says otherwise. It's going to take time. There is not the same understanding of how the sausage is made in video games as there is in other forms of media. And even the other forms of media, it's glamorized. The reality of making a TV show is not what you see on TV. It's a lot more drudge work. It's a lot less glamorous. There is as much yelling and abuse, but it's just a lot more boring and difficult and drudgery. But I'm going to keep trying. If there's any game devs watching this who can, even if you don't want to come on, if you want to write a statement, I'll read it anonymously. I'm willing to do that. I know I'm shouting into the void sometimes, but if even a few people are more informed by some of the things I do, that makes it worth it, because I do sincerely believe in providing information and furthering the dialogue in some way, informing people. I'm way more concerned about that than views or money. I need to be better at the money thing. I need to focus on that more. I'm cutting off my nose to spite my face a lot of the time. And on that note, help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time Leanna Cares session for someone who can use it but can't afford it, coffee.com/LeannaK. 6 people currently in need of subsidized services. Thanks for watching, and crap, I don't have it ready. There we go. Have a great weekend.